Again, Ren Sakibara laughs. His friend, Gakushu Asano, glares at the mess on the ground. This is so annoying. Gakushu rolls his eyes, kicking away the love letters. He knocks the rest of the love letters out of his locker and onto the floor. Man, Gakushu gets all the girls. Teppei sighs. Nuh-uh, that's not true. Ren interrupts. I get it's not important. Studying and keeping grades up is significant. If these girls can't see that, then they're wasting their time with me. Gakushu inhales, and his brief, hot-headed temper morphs into a small smile. He steps between Teppei and Ren, walking down the halls, passing in B-class third years on his way. Most step out of his way and stop to look. It shouldn't be annoying. He's been watched by the same faces all his life. Admiration, they all seem to say. Jealousy, some. Competitive, of course, a couple. Friendly, none. That's to be expected, though. Gakushu could care less about them. He need only care about himself and what he represents. The hard thing is, though, these students not only represent his school, but himself, his family, his father. And in order to beat the devil at his own game, you have to become him. Gakushu knows this all too well. So he'll bide his time, wait, then crumble the horns on his father's head and his secrets along with them. Gakushu? His first instinct was to glare at the pest speaking to him. His next was to smack himself for even thinking that'd be okay. Yes, did you need something? He smiles because even though he'd prefer to ignore this student and continue walking to class, he has a job to do. Keep A class at the top. A girl with forest green hair blushes at him from the side. He looks at Teppei and Ren, then motions their grinning faces to carry on. Math is one of my worst subjects, and yesterday's math problem really stumped me. I was wondering if you could help. He didn't fail to notice how her cheeks tinted redder the closer he got. His violet eyes moved to the paper in her hand. Which problem is it? His eyes roamed the paper, only one problem left unanswered. Number 4? Oh, of course, my apologies for being so blind. No, it's really fine. They were too easy. Okay, so show me how you solve this and I'll correct anything wrong. Okay. More blushing. It never ceases. He should be thankful, but all he is annoyed. Gakushu raises his hand to answer the question, something everyone else would know if they were paying attention. We squared the numbers, which would leave x by itself, and transform 144 into 12. X equals 12. Yes, thank you, Gakushu. Gakushu didn't grin at the praise Mr. Lin had given him. He didn't grin or smirk at anything really, not unless it had to do with his father. No, Gakushu simply smiled and wrote down the next formula. Alright class, take the rest of the period to complete this packet. Don't finish it, take it home, turn it in tomorrow, go. Gakushu was already halfway done with the packet. Now that he had the rest of the class period, he was sure to finish it before class ended. He'd probably even have some free time. Gakushu skidded past the math problems, most of which were review questions. Some were new math problems he hadn't learned yet, but completed with ease. He had his father to thank for that. 25 minutes later, Gakushu had finished the packet. As expected, he had more time on his hands. He could have helped others with their packets. He should have started working on what they would be learning tomorrow. But he had to get away. He had to think. Gakushu opened the bathroom door and walked toward the mirrors. He looked at himself, made sure he was still sane, then held his hands under the running tap. He smacked himself a few times. His cheeks became a light shade of red. He fixed his hair and turned the tap off. He thought about the girl he'd heard yesterday. He thought about how she was complaining about her parents and how she wanted a solution. He thought it was funny. The only time he'd ever heard his next-door neighbor complain was yesterday, and he's sure that's one of the first times she's ever complained about anything. He thought about how she would see him. He'd only ever given her the complimentary hello here and there. She did the same because it was respectful. There was only a number of times he could count on one hand that he saw her at school, and every time he thought, she acts like she doesn't know me. But he then thought she wouldn't be wrong to do so. It would of course be weird if she were to just walk up to him and say, "Hi, how are you?" She was also a year younger than him, which he didn't mind much. Not that he'd really thought about it, or her, up until now. He could also count the number of things he knew about the girl on one hand. She was a year younger, she was in A class, she was 2A's class president, and she was his neighbor. That was it. And now, he thought, maybe she really didn't know him. As he joy-walked down the halls, Gakushu thought about the secret his father was keeping. He didn't know how he'd figure it out, but he knew he would. One way or another, he would definitely... "Oh, Asano!" Someone gasped, giving Gakushu the scare of his life. The voice also brought him back to reality. This was the 5th time today, and he thought he might as well just stick a piece of paper to his forehead that said, "Annoy me." Like every other time he was pulled out of his thoughts, he had the instinct to glare at the person, but seeing as he had more self-control, he offered a queer, small, completely fake smile. "Is there something I can help you with?" He continues forward, standing in front of the young B-class girl. She twiddled with her shirt, and for the love of God, Gakushu prayed this wasn't going to be what he thought it was. He thought he might flip out if another girl confessed her oh-so undying love for him. It was not only completely insignificant, but also irrefutably annoying. His smile stretched to one side. It was all he could do to resist the urge of rolling his eyes. "I was actually looking for you today, but every time I saw you, you were surrounded by your friends, and well, this isn't something you really do in front of a crowd, you know?" Gakushu knew all too well. He hated having to let these girls down gently, or even at all. Sometimes he wished he was bat ugly, just so things like this didn't happen. He cursed in his head when the girl pulled out a pink envelope, no doubt with the later meetup location inside. Now he would have to go out of his way to let her down wherever this place was. He just hoped it wasn't across town. The situation was already putting him behind schedule. If it took any more of his time, he didn't know what he'd do. "Let me stop you right there." He put his hand up. "I apologize if I'm wrong, but if that's a love letter, I'm afraid I can't accept it." He didn't know why he'd said that, nor was he planning on taking it back. The girl looked like her entire world had just broken, but Gakushu didn't feel anything toward it, let alone the need to fix it. However, he still had a job to do, and he would do it no matter the cost. "Because I already have a girlfriend." A little white lie, he thought, never hurt anyone. From the corner of his eye out the window, Gakushu watched his father follow the path to the hill that led up to E-class. He gripped his pencil and wondered why his father would need to visit that wretched place. His eyes then caught on something else, on someone else. Her hair shone in the late noon sun. He twiddled with his pencil as he watched Ellen from afar. What is she doing? He mumbled to himself. Then he saw the thing in her hands. A book, her diary to be exact, and it brought him back to the last night when she was going on and on about how she could care less about relationships, how they were a waste of time, and how she didn't need to find a boyfriend, let alone her future husband right now. He smiled because, for the first time in his life, Gakushu thought he could relate to someone. Then he thought about the girl a few minutes ago in the hallway, how he could do without girls flocking him every 5 minutes, and how Ellen was right when she said relationships were just a waste of time. He thought over his little white lie and internally drug a hand down his face. It did hurt. A little white lie did hurt people. It hurt him because he knew this girl would not keep this new information to herself. God, he was an idiot, but, he thought, a smart one. Gakushu knew it was absurd. He knew what he was thinking was possibly the dumbest thing he'd ever thought about. But if there was even a sliver of a chance that his idea might work, that she would agree, He would take it because he needed to clean up the mess he'd created without causing any more damage, but if he could do it while solving the issue that got him into this mess, then he surely would try. To kill two birds with one stone was how the saying went. However, Gakushu thought the more fitting verse would go something like this: kill the birds, then eat them. It might even help her fix her problem, he thought, a callous smile on his lips. It disappeared right as the bell rang.